Our next speaker is Dr. Hyla, and she's a nationally acclaimed innovator and expert in the field of integrative medicine and psychiatry. She's known as the drug-free psychiatrist for helping individuals overcome anxiety, depression, and more, using specific natural supplements, including hemp oil extracts and CBD. She founded Dr. Cass's hemp oil extracts in order to have the exact combination of the purest ingredients. She's the author of several popular books, including Supplement Your Prescription, Natural Highs, 8 Weeks to Vibrant Health, and The Addicted Brain and How to Break Free, and your amazing itty bitty guide to cannabis. Welcome, Dr. Hyla Cass. So happy to have you here at Healthy Holidays, Healthy Life.
My pleasure.
Dr. Hyla, can you please tell us, where does your passion for natural medicine come from? How did you get started in this field?
Such a good question. Well, I think probably it started with my dad being a doctor, and he practiced family medicine out of our home. I was born and raised in Toronto, Canada. And we didn't have a lot of medications at the time, and medicine was not technological then. This was in the olden days. And he practiced a very natural kind of medicine, being very reassuring to his patients, which I would see because they came to our home. And also, when we had something going wrong, he'd always say, "Oh, it'll get better." Really encouraging, not like nowadays, doctors' kids are given pills, like they're given medication for everything. And everyone expects medication for everything. Well, I was raised with, it'll get better. And it always did. And the truth is that symptoms are a message from our body. And the last thing we ought to do is suppress it with a really strong medicine, which cuts off the communication. So, that was one way that my passion began. The other is that I began to notice in my training that the medications had a lot of side effects and they weren't that effective. So why use them when, in fact, we have the best pharmacy built into us? So that's going to unfold in our conversation, how the body works, how the body works to let us know what's wrong, and how we know how to heal it, and how the body knows how to heal itself.
That's such an important message, and something that we've been kind of alluding to in different ways and throughout this conference, and many people are alluding to this, that the body does have innate wisdom, and you help us supplement those things to give the body a boost. But before we talk about that, I would like to highlight maybe what are some of the more dangers of prescription drugs, because we trust our doctors, right? And the doctors give us the pills, and sometimes that's having an adverse effect for us. Can you share a little bit more about your knowledge around that?
Yes. For the past number of years, my main focus of my practice, because I'm one of the few people that was doing this, was helping to wean people off of psychiatric medications, because the meds weren't working. People may be on multiple meds, and they were having side effects. So can you imagine taking something, it's not working, you're still depressed, you're still anxious, and you're having other effects from it, like loss of libido, weight gain, even suicidal thoughts. So the meds themselves are not particularly safe. They're not particularly effective. And as I said, we have the best pharmacy built into us. And that's what I encourage people and teach people how to utilize.
Yeah, I actually, I'm not saying this is everybody or every medication, but you mentioned suicidal thoughts. I actually know somebody who went on acne medication and did commit suicide. Very sad. A very young woman, no real issues, emotional issues before the medication. And yeah, it's tragic. It was tragic from acne medication.
Exactly. That's Accutane. For acne. Very bad. Very sad.
So, all right, getting us back on our health and healthy, happy note. Right. It is. And I think that people don't necessarily, that's what I was talking about. We trust that the FDA said this is okay, that our doctor said this is okay, and there are side effects, and suicide obviously being one of the worst. But we have other things at our disposal. And that is what we're here to share today, is not necessarily to I think you'll give us the words of warning of what we need to do if we are on medication, but share more about the supplements you'd use and also around CBD and how you use that.
Sure. Now, our system is made to work with nature. We're part of nature. It's not like here's nature and here's us. We're absolutely a part of nature. The whole plant world offers a great deal of medicinal benefit to us. And we can take a very good advantage of it. A lot of the indigenous cultures have done this forever. And then there's Ayurveda, the Chinese medicine, Korean medicine. All of the old cultures have really good natural medicine systems. And we've learned a lot. We've incorporated it. And now there's a bit of a polarity between Eastern and Western medicine. And I vote for the more natural because it actually works better. It's not only it's less dangerous, but it's actually more effective. It's interesting because people have, I've had people come to me and say, I'm really depressed, and I've offered them things like amino acids, B vitamins, and various supplements, and changing their diet. And they said, no, you don't understand. I have a really serious depression. I need medication. And I say, no, you have a serious depression because you are depleted. And I will help your body restore its natural stores, the stores that it needs. It needs vitamin D, it needs B vitamins, it needs certain amino acids, proteins, complex carbs, and so on, and not eating toxic food, not eating frankenfood. If you do that, you'll get an effect, and you'll get it much quicker than when you're taking the medication, which can take weeks and weeks to come on. And then it's kind of an artificial additive. It's like a chemical straitjacket. It's not really repairing anything. It's simply covering the symptoms.
Mm. Yeah. So I want to, did you just tell us that eating a poor diet and eating highly processed food can cause depression and of course, other issues?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So another speaker, another person telling us we need to eat more whole foods in our diets and get out of, I love the term frankenfood that you used. It's true. It's like this stuff looks like food. It kind of tastes like food, but it's not food, right? And it's not just hurting us physically, it's hurting us emotionally, I believe is what you're saying.
And it actually has built-in addictive effects. The same as the tobacco industry built in the addictiveness. Nicotine was already addictive, but they made it more addictive. And it's the same thing with the food. So when people have food cravings and it's really hard for them to change their diet, I can't give up sugar, I can't give up whatever I don't even know what the foods are that people are eating, but they don't want to give them up. It's because they've had this built-in addiction. However, the good news is when you start to eat whole foods, it takes over and your body says, yes. It's like it's been starving for the good stuff. You didn't even know it because your brain's been hijacked. But you start to feel, oh, I feel better. I have more energy. I sleep better. I'm losing weight. All these things just like come on as these wonderful surprises as the side effect of eating whole food, which is what we're meant to eat.
Exactly. And I want to backtrack a little bit. Like, I do believe that most people are good people, including doctors. And it's the training, it's the system that we're in that has set us up for this way. And I'm so grateful for people like you, Dr. Hyla, who have gotten a different route of education to bring us different ways of handling depression, different ways of handling illness, right, dis-ease. So share with us now, like some tools that we can use. And of course, CBD is one of your big ones.
Right. And it's not the only one. And I don't want to say that, hey, take CBD and everything will get better. But I will explain the role of CBD because it's one product that's very misunderstood. When I first heard about CBD, I thought, oh, it's an excuse to get high, which is, because it's conflated with marijuana because they're both from the cannabis plant. So I was not that interested in it. And then being curious, I actually looked more closely. Some friends of mine wrote a book on CBD. I thought, I'll have a look. And it was an eye opener, because what I discovered is that while CBD and THC, which is the part of the cannabis plant that gets you high, are from the same cannabis plant, they have different actions. So THC makes you high. CBD actually neutralizes that high. In fact, the problem these days is that we've bred the marijuana plant to be very high in THC, and we're having THC casualties, which we didn't used to have. We didn't used to have people freaking out from marijuana. We do now, and that's because the THC is so high, it's not neutralized by the CBD, and people are having adverse reactions. They can get anxious, irritable, and even psychotic. And that's a bad thing. And that can be neutralized. And I just want to put that out too, because if this happens to someone or you're in a situation where somebody has inadvertently, maybe it's the first time they did it, they've smoked some weed, and they're really going off the deep end, CBD is the solution, not a drug. Because once they get on a drug, they're labeled, the person's labeled, and they're kept on the medication, and it could actually change their life in a very bad direction. So enough said for that one.
So, and I'm really glad you said that, because a lot of people, I think, have a thing of CBD is the same as marijuana or THC, and they're not the same thing. And CBD is legal in many states now.
And you can get it anywhere. You don't have to go to a dispensary as you do with THC. And by the way, I am not against marijuana. I am not against recreational marijuana, or certainly not against medical marijuana. But it needs to be used responsibly, because anything that's mind altering, you really need to respect your body and your mind and be responsible. So that's where I'm coming from. But that's not my area of interest. My area of interest is CBD, because it has such amazing medicinal effects, particularly in psychiatry.
Great. So how does it work?
Well, this is so interesting, and it's part of the endocannabinoid system. Now, the endocannabinoid system is our internal, it's like CBD is the phytocannabinoid. It's a phytocannabinoid, which phyto, which means plant cannabinoid, and the endocannabinoids are ones that we make. We actually make our own cannabinoids. So 2-AG and anandamide are two of them. And what CBD does is it comes in and it actually augments our own endocannabinoid system, which is a very important system. What it does is it helps us to balance and communicate among all the different systems. It's like an adaptogen. So it has all our different systems communicating with each other. And the goal, this is so cool, the goal of the endocannabinoid system, which goes through our whole, the gut, the brain, hormones, immune system, is to help us to modulate eating, sleeping, relaxing. It protects us, and it helps us to forget bad memories.
Oh.
Is that amazing?
That's amazing. That isn't, I didn't know that part. Oh, that's amazing. Which is why it's helpful in psychiatry as well. So how do we use it?
Well, we take it orally when needed. And how do you know you need it? Well, if you have anxiety, depression, migraine, pain, PMS, menopausal, all of these things are indicative of a low endocannabinoid system. There may be other things involved, like hormones and other neurotransmitters, but the endocannabinoid system controls all that. So if you have those issues that I just mentioned and others, you have a low endocannabinoid system, and the way to raise it up naturally is to take CBD. So it's actually perfect and simple. You don't have to figure it all out. You just have to try it. You start off with a very low dose, And what I do is have people either take a spray under their tongue or take dropperfuls, put droppers under the tongue and let it absorb, wait 15 minutes and see what happens. I mean, I had a young man in my office who was highly anxious and pretty resistant. He was 20 years old. His mother brought him in. He was not happy to be there. Didn't want to talk to me. And it was not going well. So I said to him, would you be interested in taking supplements? No, they don't work. Okay. Have you ever tried CBD? No. Would you be willing to try some? Well, okay. And he wasn't looking at me, and he was kind of not nice, not being very nice. So I took some and put some drops under his tongue and was talking to his mom. And then about 10 minutes later, came back to him and I said, so Bruce, how you feeling? And he did a double take. He said, oh, I feel really good. Like, what? I haven't felt this good and calm in a really long time. And he was looking at me, looking straight at me. And I was like, we had contact. There was someone home. He got home and he got connected to himself and was connected to me, and we could begin working together. So it's very powerful. This is just, it's amazing. It's just little drops of oil and from a plant, from the cannabis plant, and it has such power to change our minds and our moods. Just remarkable.
Amazing story. We got some questions coming in the chat. Keep them coming, y'all. We're going to get there. But I want to review real quick again. What are some of the top things you mentioned PMS, you mentioned headaches, mood, what have you. Tell us again, what are some of the things that CBD can be really effective with?
Okay, anxiety, depression, migraines, which are really, really hard to treat. Blood pressure issues, dementia. It actually, with dementia, what it does is it actually helps increase something called brain-derived nerve growth factor. It helps you to grow connections, new connections in your brain. It also helps to destroy the amyloid plaque, which is pathognomonic of Alzheimer's disease. So it has just so many different effects, mind, mood, memory. And as the hormones, as I mentioned, with PMS and menopause. Sleep, great for sleep.
Yeah, that was what I was going to kick in, is like for insomnia and sleep as well. So we have some questions, and you mentioned this is for the blood pressure. Somebody's got, if somebody's on blood thinning medications, is there a counterindication for any medications? For example, with blood thinners, like you shouldn't be eating grapefruits.
Right, because it'll potentiate it. So what you need to do is titrate it, because of these medications you always titrate to get just the right amount that you need for blood clotting. So you need to titrate it, and with your doctor's help, when you're taking CBD, so you know what dose of CBD and what dose of blood thinner to take. So that's the main drug that we're concerned about. Other drugs we're really not concerned about, unless you're taking over 100 milligrams of CBD, and you seldom need that much. And it's usually well over 100, that it will even begin to interfere with a drug and prevent the breakdown. So it's really safe. I always have people take it a couple hours away anyway, just to be on the safe side.
Okay, great. So if you're on any medications, definitely check in with Dr. Hyla on that bit, and what we also hear here. But just I'm covering our bases here. Check in with your doctors when you're on medications. And somebody else is saying that they're trying to find CBD to help with pain, and that there's different ratios of CBD to THC. So how do we find a product that is a high quality, because there's a lot of different CBD oils out there. I know I've looked as well, and also ratios and dosages. And this person's asking specifically around pain.
CBD that's sold over the counter has to have less than 0.1% less than 0.3% of THC, which is a trace amount. It can be even like it can be like 0.1%, just really tight trace amount. Once you get into those ratios, you're talking about dispensaries. You're talking about actual marijuana. Even if it's a low dose of THC, that's the dispensary. And that you talk to someone in a dispensary, and there are experts. There are also doctors who are expert in that area. I am not. But what I'm dealing with is either full spectrum or broad spectrum or isolate. So the full spectrum has the trace of THC. And that's the one I prefer because they haven't processed it the extra amount to pull out the THC, because there's always a bit of collateral damage as you pull out the THC, which is done with alcohol, and then the alcohol is removed. But as you do that, you may actually take out some of the other beneficial ingredients in the whole plant. And the closer to nature we have it, the better. So then you have the broad spectrum where the THC has been removed. Then there's the isolate, which I recommend for people for whom any amount of THC is going to get them into trouble. And let me explain. There are people like military or police or whatever, that if that have drug testing, random drug testing, so they can lose their job if it's found that they've been using marijuana. However, even if it's like less than 0.3% a trace, it can actually accumulate in the fat cells over time. And if you don't have good metabolism and you're not metabolizing, you're not breaking it down and eliminating it, it could accumulate and theoretically cause a positive drug test. So those people, I say, just take the THC free. But other than that, I really like the one with the trace. And I'm somebody, as I said, who I actually don't like marijuana personally. People have different genetics. And my own genetics is, and which I discovered after I just don't tolerate THC. I found out that genetically, that's right. I just don't tolerate it very well. So I'm very little interest in it. But that little trace is actually good for the reason I said that you're not having to remove the THC, you're not having to remove stuff from it, so you have more of the whole plant. And that little THC can actually be beneficial.
Okay, great. That's so helpful. And I'm going to continue down this thing of like for the amount, because you'll see a bottle this big and it will have 250 milligrams or 1,500 milligrams, and I said it's like, okay, I put something on my tongue, but I don't really know what I'm doing as far as
right. Okay,
so I'm glad. What do you recommend for us?
Well, I explain it really well on my website because I know how confusing it is. I was always hugely confused. So, for example, a 750 milligram 1 ounce bottle has 25 milligrams in each dropper, not dropper. So each dropper is because it's a matter of its division. It's 30 mLs in a dropper, and you divide 750 by 30 and you get 25. So there's 25, you get this 25 milligrams in each dropper. A half a dropper is going to have 12.5 milligrams. Or the 1,500 milligram bottle. Some people think, how much are you taking? Oh, I'm taking 1,500 milligrams. No, you are not. The bottle is 1,500 milligrams. What you're taking is 50 milligrams if you're taking 1 dropper. Okay. So it'll say on the side of the bottle or on the bottom. On mine, I say right on the front of the label, like on the 750 underneath it, it's 25 milligrams per ml. On the 1,500, it's 50 milligrams per ml. On the 3,000, it's 100 milligrams per ml.
Great. And so if we're talking in a day period, what would be the max milligrams you would want to take? Like, in an aspirin, you're like every 6 hours.
Boy, it's so different. It's not like aspirin. It's not like antibiotic. It is so individual. Some people need a half a dropper of the 750. Or even a quarter of a dropper. Some people need a whole dropper of the 1500, which is 50 milligrams. So somebody's getting 12 and a half milligrams, somebody else is taking 50 milligrams. That's what you need. And at different times, you may need different amounts. It also depends on your own endocannabinoid system. So is it very low? It needs to be brought back up.
Okay. Is there an upper limit?
Not really. People have taken, several hundred and they're fine.
Okay.
That's what they need. And they may need that for a little while until they build up the reserves. No one has ever OD'd on CBD.
Okay, that's where I'm going. So we can experiment on our own bodies. We can take a little bit, see how we feel, and go from there without concern that we're going to OD on too much CBD. And I also want to, because we're talking about, somebody was talking about pain and like we talk about headaches and things like this. And people are often like, I'm going to pop a ibuprofen or an aspirin, and that is wreaking havoc in our digestive system and our gut. And
Yep.
Could you share a little bit more about what you know about that and why we would not want to take the ibuprofen, which is we can just pick up on the counter, and we would want to go into a more natural route for, especially for relieving pain and headache?
Yeah, no question. It actually interfaces with our pain receptors, relaxes our muscles, because often pain is associated with tension. It enhances our neurotransmitters, which also affect pain. So it works in many different dimensions to decrease pain. I mean, I had a friend, we were at a trade show, and he was having some really bad sciatica, and he was having to walk the floor, and he didn't want to take, he had a prescription for opioids, but he really didn't want to take them because he didn't want to be foggy brained. He was at a trade show. He needed to think straight. So I asked him if he'd ever taken CBD, and he hadn't. So I had a bottle with me, and we titrated right on the spot, and we determined what his dose ought to be. And for the rest of the day, he had the bottle with him, and he took it every once in a while, and he was fine. He didn't need the opiate. And he did very, very well on it and continued to take it after that. The other thing is it's actually good for helping people to taper off of opioids. So that's an important thing, because it's hard to taper off drugs. And I've often been helping people get off of psychiatric medication. Same thing. It really helps to cushion that withdrawal, so that people don't have what's called discontinuation syndrome, which can be very, very uncomfortable and last a long time, even after the whole taper is done.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, what I personally use CBD for, I use it topically, and sometimes, like, if I start to feel like I sit at the computer too much, I'm always preaching about making sure we move. I do that. I move throughout the day, but I also do a lot of computer work, and sometimes I'm like, I'm just like, and I will do a little just topically on my skin. And the other thing that I have found, and if you have any remedies for this, and maybe I should be taking oral, you can tell me, please. I have restless legs, and I keep it very under control with taking calcium magnesium, and it's just fine. But every once in a while, I'll be sleeping at night. If you don't know what restless legs are, it's miserable. You never want it. But I put that CBD oil right on my legs, and everything just like, and I can go right to sleep, which is amazing. So if you don't want to take something, internally, I use it externally regularly.
Have you tried taking it orally at bedtime?
Not lately. I have, yes, but not lately. And honestly, I don't want to get into a consult for me, but the restless legs is not, it's few and far between. It's when I haven't taken enough calcium magnesium for a couple days or something, like I miss it, and then it will pop up. Or sometimes when I have kind of more stress in my life. But in any case, topically is also amazing. I used it on when I sprained my ankle. I used it topically right on my ankle for pain relief. Amazing for that. And I want to get into, because you have made this is your like part of your life's work, right? Is the CBD, and you have products, not just CBD, but also other supplements that people can use that that we can buy. Can you tell us? Because people are like, what CBD do I buy? And they're not all the same. Like to me, I've tried several brands and they're not all the same. So what
Right.
makes your CBD different, and how can we get more of that?
Well, the interesting thing is I chose a company that does extraction from organic farms. They're neighborhood farms where they know the farms, and they bring what's called the biomass to the plant where it's extracted and ultimately bottled, and then bottled to my specs, which I really appreciate. I really wanted to have my own brand because I wanted to have my own taste, my own ratios. I wanted it just the way I wanted it. And it turned out well. And sometimes it's the luck of the draw, because what was so cool, it was I gave it to people initially just to make sure that this is the right company for me. And what happened was they said, wow, this is even better than, and they mentioned other names that I really respect. By the way, because mine is not the only game in town. There are the very respectable brands of CBD. There's also a lot of junk out there, so please be careful. But it was comparing very favorably. And some people said, I've switched. It works better. So as I said, sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. I chose carefully, but also it's turned out well.
Great. And so we get a 10% off coupon as part of our free gift. So you can try it out. And I want to just remind and just hit back on this topic and highlight it, because when we go and we take the natural supplements, when we take the CBD, we're augmenting the body. And I want you to confirm this for us. Whereas when we take medication, even if it's over counter, like an ibuprofen or something, we're more masking symptoms. Is that, and we're in some cases hurting the body for a temporary relief. Would you agree with that?
Completely. I mean, you're really disrupting things when you take a drug, and you're much better off taking a natural product. By the way, that 10% off is that's great, but we actually right now have a 15% holiday discount.
Oh.
So I'm saying better take advantage of that one. You can't use both, but if you use the current 15%, it's a better deal.
Awesome. So check that out. Well, if Janelle dropping that, we also have a free gift coming from you. Can you share more about the free gift that's going to help? Because people still have questions. I love it. Thank you, Carol. I see your questions. And I think your free gift is going to help answer some of these questions.
Yes, because it's an ebook. It's a 22-page ebook called CBD, What You Need to Know. And it covers some of the things we talked about and some of the things we didn't get to. And then on my website, which is drcass.com, it has tons of information, like how to take it, how it's grown, we can't say too much about conditions because that is making a drug claim. So I'm a little encumbered there. I can't say very much on the website. I'm saying more here. So that's maybe semi-legal. I don't know. But I find it so important to educate people to their options. There's so much drug advertising that I feel we have to counteract that. And you're doing a great job with that, with your whole series.
And people like you coming here and sharing your wisdom is what makes it, right? We get all different information, right? And we talk about taking action and action steps. So if you're interested in finding out more about CBD and using the oil, definitely download the free guide. And then also you can reach out to Dr. Hyla Cass. And again, your website is drcass.com. Is that correct?
Correct. And then there's a related website, which also has some other blogs on it. Some of them are related to CBD, some of them related to mental health in general.
Great.
So it's all connected, tons of information.
Great. Yeah, the link just got dropped in the chat. That's Cass, CASS. And I love also I want to highlight a couple of things because I am not by any stretch of the imagination a CBD expert. I use it in my little way, and I've been good with that. But I love what you talked about also it rebuilding the brain, right? Because this is so, and looking at more like a supplement that we talked about in like the last interview, spices and things like this. This is also a natural piece of our plant world that is augmenting the brain. And I have a friend who has parents with dementia. And so if you know folks that might benefit, like you can share this interview with them, share the information with them, have them also sign up for the free ebook. And so we can educate ourselves on other ways that we can handle our quote unquote dis-ease, right? In a more healthy, rejuvenating, body building, augmenting way. This has been amazing. And I'm curious, Dr. Hyla, do you have any last thoughts that you want to share with us?
I think that respect your body. Know that you have dominion over your body. You don't have to take external, potentially toxic things to make yourself feel better, that nature provides because we're part of nature. So remember that and use your body the way it was meant to be used. Eat good food, move, get sunshine, drink water, exercise, all the things that we were made to do, and you will be rewarded.
Thank you so much. That's a beautiful message. And also, Dr. Hyla has given us a gift in the VIP package as well. So if you do know folks that are dealing with the brain things, there's an ebook, Reclaim Your Brain. And you can get that in the VIP package and give the gift of health to yourself, to your loved ones, and also help us feed the hungry for the holidays by getting a VIP package. So thank you so much, Dr. Hyla, for being here with us. This is amazing. I've learned some things. I hope you all have learned some things, and take advantage. We know there is a 10% off coupon, and now we can get that 15% off and really get into some very high quality organic CBD that we can use to better our health for all the things. No health claims here. But for many things that we can help ourselves with. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure having you on Healthy Holidays, Healthy Life.
And it's been my pleasure to be on your show. And thanks for all you do.